I have a little short intro that we are going to do before we hand it over to Sheri. So let me just share my screen real quick. Okay, so again, thank you everyone that is here today. Sheri is our most popular webinar host ever. So if you didn't already see her cold weather cycling, it's gorgeous now, but we're still only in March. So you may want to check that out as well. So this one is route planning for cyclists. We greatly appreciate you being here. Let me make, there we go. I may have skipped one, there we go. So this is hosted by Ride Illinois. We are hoping you are all very familiar with us. We are the statewide bike advocacy group, nonprofit. So these are some of our goals. We work towards bike-friendly roads, more trails and improved trails, favorable legislation and policies. In fact, we were just participating in the National Bike Summit Lobby Day, cyclist and motorist education, and we want to share our love of cycling with others and make Illinois better through bicycling. So you have almost our entire staff currently on this webinar with you. Dave Simmons is our illustrious executive director. I'm our communications and projects coordinator. And then Ed Barsati, who is our longtime executive director, is still with us part-time as our senior consultant. Oops, I skipped one, sorry. We do want to thank our corporate members. We have individual members and corporate members, and these are organizations that have given us money. And in fact, Civil Tech just recently renewed. So we're very grateful to them. You can find out more information on our website. So one of the things we are for is education of not just bicyclists, but also motorists. Our bike safety quiz is a free way to get some education to a lot of people. You learn through taking the quiz. So if you get the answer wrong, it explains why there's a better choice. And we do also have Spanish versions, PDF versions, and we have a grant to driver's ed schools right now that you can find more information on our website. I'm going to hand it over to Dave so that he can talk about the Ride Illinois community.
Thank you, Gina. So yeah, I'm Dave Simmons, Executive Director of Ride Illinois. I just want to spend a moment on the community slide here. So the graphic kind of conveys togetherness and kind of the warm and fuzziness, and that's kind of what we want to build through Ride Illinois, with Ride Illinois kind of in the lead. With so many folks due to the pandemic, either new to cycling or getting back to it, we want to really come across as a very welcoming, not just come across, but embody a very welcoming organization and the idea of building community through bikes. So I'm not going to read the statement there, but in essence, we want to be welcoming to all folks who ride a bike, no matter why they ride, where they ride, who they ride with, or so just wanted to mention that. And I would hope that our members and our supporters appreciate that and also convey that message, so we can just build cycling as a lifestyle throughout the state of Illinois. So enjoy the webinar tonight. I do have to jump off in a little bit, but I will watch the recording. Thanks for being here, and thank you all for your support. Turn things back over to Gina.
Thank you. So there are some ways you can support us. One, of course, is that we just want everyone to ride as much as possible, be good ambassadors for the cycling community, for recreation as well as transportation. Since you are, every time you're on a bike, you are basically an ambassador for the rest of us. So please follow the rules of the road on your rides. Promote us to your friends and family. Take and share our bike safety quiz. But of course, also share with us. We are, of course, on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. You can email us, call us. There are a multitude of ways to share any concerns or suggestions with us. And of course, we would love it if you become a Ride Illinois member. Being a not-for-profit, we only exist because of the support of our members and our corporate members and clubs of that nature. So this is both mine and Dave's contact information. You'll also notice at the bottom is info@rideillinois.org. So that goes to all of us as well. And just some ground rules, we want this to be a fun event. We're going to share a link to the recording. I am going to ask comments and questions if you just put it in the chat so that if we don't get to it, we have a record of that for later. And like I said, just try to make sure you share it to all panelists and attendees because then we can all see it. So I am going to stop sharing. So Sheri, as we mentioned before, she has done one of our cold weather biking webinar, and that was our most popular webinar we have ever had, both in amount of attendees, those watching it on YouTube and Facebook. She is a huge cycling advocate, and I would give all of her intro, but I'm afraid I'm going to skip something. You have a blog, you're part of the women's group ambassador, so perhaps you can give us a very short intro, and then we'll let you proceed.
Sure. Well, I'm Sheri Rosenbaum. A lot of you know me already. I'm a blogger and YouTuber. I have a new blog. It's Sunflowers and Pedals, Pedals. And I'll give all my contact information at the end of the presentation. I ride all types of bikes, road, gravel, fat bike, mountain bike. I just like to get out and ride. So I guess we'll start with a poll. So Gina, you want to go ahead and post our little poll question?
Thank you. Yes, let me bring this up. Launch polling.
So I just want to get some idea why you wanted to join today's webinar.
And I'm going to just say, because those that watch the recording will not actually see it. So the question for those viewing it after the fact is, why did you join today's webinar? And the choices are, I get lost in a round room. I'm tired of just following the wheel in front of me. I'm ready to start exploring new places. I need new scenery, or Sheri made me come. So we're at about 60% voted. So I'll wait just a few minutes more. Well, no, sorry, not a few minutes, just a little bit longer. Oh, we're at 79. Can we get all of you to fill out the poll for us? Okay, we're at 88%. I think I'm going to end it. Oh, and that just made a couple do it. Okay, I'm going to end the polling. And let's share results. So for those, you can see it if you're watching it now, but for those of you watching the recording, we had 3% say I get lost in a round room. 1% said I'm tired of just following the wheel in front of me. 71% I'm ready to start exploring new places. We're very excited about that. 19% I need new scenery, and 6% said Sheri made me come. So even if she made you come, I'm sure you're going to still get a lot out of it, or you wouldn't have agreed.
So I should be sharing my screen?
That is correct.
All right, well, let's get started. So thank you to the 4 who I made come. I need to find out who those are. So what I want you to do is close your eyes. Don't go to sleep on me. And I want you to think about the favorite route you have when you go biking, or the favorite ride you ever did. What made it so fantastic? Was it the people you're with, the scenery, a great climb that you conquered, a fantastic downhill? What was it? Keep that in the back of your mind. So open up your eyes and let's talk about what makes a good route. So first of all, if you're road riding, definitely safe and quiet roads. You want to find a route that has a nice wide shoulder and well paved, not a lot of crap on it. That's scenic. You don't want to just follow the wheel in front of you all the time. A lot of great rides have a destination in mind. It could be a great coffee place. It could be a sunflower farm, a brewery, but destination rides are always pretty cool. Also a good route, think about every 20 to 30 miles, you want to have nutrition available to you, drinking water, and bathrooms. especially the women are looking for bathrooms. Men, the world's your bathroom. Something that people don't think about when they're planning a route is you want to make mostly right turns whenever possible, because if you're in a large group, it's hard and it's also very dangerous on a busy road to make a left-hand turn and take the whole lane. So if you're planning a route for your group, think about making right-hand turns when possible. Or if it's a left-hand turn, if there's a turn lane. Think about your favorite route that you do. Next time you do it, reverse the route. It's amazing how it changes. You see so many new things, and that great downhill now becomes a really challenging climb. Today we have lovely 20-mile-an-hour winds. So if you're planning a ride, think about what direction the wind is. If you're able to just plan it on the fly, do you want tailwinds at the beginning of your ride or at the end? Or do you want to try and do crosswinds the whole time? Makes a difference on the ride experience. There's a ton of resources for you to plan your route. Some are free, some are subscription-based, and some are a mixture. I have two columns here. The left-hand column's pretty much road, but you can do gravel and some mountain bike with these applications. And the right-hand column is gravel and mountain biking. I would imagine the majority of people on this call have heard of Strava. Actually, the first three, I'm sure everybody knows, Ride with GPS and Map My Ride. All of those are free with a subscription, like bump up to have certain features. People for Bikes is a non-for-profit, and they launched ridespot.org. You may not be familiar with that. And bikemap.net. Garmin has routes. Your Wahoo Elements you can use for routes. Adventure Cycling is another non-for-profit that offers maps, physical maps, and GPS maps. Google, everybody knows Google Maps. You can always click on Google Maps, change the icon from a car to a bicycle and find some routes. And Komoot. And then on the right-hand side, Trail Forks and All Trails are very popular in the mountain bike and trails. Mountain Bike Project is another one. GeoGPS, I have not personally used, but I've been hearing more and more about it. For those of you that like trail rides, Rails to Trails are great, and you can get descriptions of different trails. And most of the Rails to Trails don't have more than like a 2% grade because the locomotive could not pull the train cars up greater than 2 to 3%. The only one that I know of was Narrow Gauge Railroad, which is out in South Dakota, the Mickelson Trail. That's got some like 6 and 8% grades.
Sheri, I'm gonna, if I can pause you just real quick, somebody had their hand raised. So I'm gonna see if Edward has a question, although we are gonna encourage everyone to use the chat. Sorry, Edward, do you have a question for us? Let me ask to unmute. Or did you raise your hand by mistake? Okay, well then, what I did want to also point out real quickly is with mountain bike projects and trail forks, it does seem to be that certain areas have much more trails on one weather than the other. So I know around here, it's mountain bike project, but there's some trail systems that it seems to be more trail forks. So I am sorry to interrupt. Sheri, please continue.
No problem. So also gravelmap.com is pretty cool. That's a new site that I have found that you can find different gravel roads. If you're into bikepacking, bikepacking.com, and then Gravel Bike Adventures is another one. And most of those, I believe, are out in the Colorado area. So if you're looking for a route either locally or traveling to another state, or this would hold true for another country too, we talked about Google Maps. Local Facebook groups are just wonderful. Here in the Chicagoland area, the Des Plaines River Trail Riders, not only can you find out what trail conditions are like up to like an hour before you're going, but also people post, I'm going to be at mile marker such and such. Is there a good restaurant just off the trail or a gas station? So people are extremely helpful and people post pictures and there's a lot of exciting information there. Raceway, trail conditions, especially when it's snowing or muddy if you're doing mountain biking. Waterfall Glen is another one that's really good. Other good resources are, before I move on from local Facebook groups, we're actually going to go mountain biking down in Arkansas, and it looks like it's going to rain for 3-4 days prior. So what I did was I posted, there's a women's mountain biking Facebook group, and I asked, first of all, suggest any trails that are good for beginner to intermediate. Got tons of answers and great information, not only on the trails, but also restaurants to go to and hiking trails. So it was a pretty great source of information in just like an hour's time. Also, they gave us 2 Facebook groups that gave us conditions of the 2 major parks in the area. So just reaching out to different groups, even though it might not be localized, and just say, hey, who's in this area? People are more than happy. Cyclists are very friendly. Local bike shops. Like I traveled to California, I traveled to Tucson, Arizona. You reach out to the local bike shop. Usually they'll have either suggestions of what bike groups there are, or also have maps or even shop rides that you can join. Once you find out the local bike clubs, a lot of them have Facebook pages, they have websites, they may have a library of different routes that you can leverage. State advocacy groups, Ride Illinois. I think Gina's going to talk about some of the maps that are available. Also in the Midwest, Wisconsin Bike Federation is a great resource. AdventureCycling.org, I mentioned earlier. And then this is an area people don't think to check, but meetup groups. If you go to meetup.com and just search by bicycling or cycling and narrow it down by the city or state, you'll find a bunch of different groups. I found one in Arizona that was a meetup group for hiking and also for biking. Great resource and very helpful. And then think about all the invitationals that have happened. A lot of these invitationals will post GPS files that you can use and go on your own. And also, if there is an invitational that you like going year after year, use their GPS maps. Maybe you did a century one year, but download the 75 and the 50 mile and go do that route, a month or 2 later. So Strava gives you really good routes. Some ways to find those are you can join or follow either a local Strava club. You can take a look for an athlete that's in a certain area, or just search the segments. And then the heat map can also give you a great view of popular routes. The key with the heat map is I believe you have to have the subscription, the paid subscription to use it. And then also I believe I'm a paid Strava user, so I don't know if the free one allows you to turn on the Strava segments, and then you can select different ways to filter it. So elevation, you want just a little bit or a lot of elevation climb. What is the surface you want to ride? Do you want to do dirt? Do you want to do paved, or any combination? And then Gina will be posting a link to this presentation, and there's a blog post about Strava routes that you can link to right from the presentation.
And Sheri, I'll mention one. We've already been asked to post a link to your webinar. And I'll say I do only have the free Strava version, so I can still view a heat map. I've never tried to do any of the other options though.
Okay, great. So when you're using your route, you're going to be exporting a file. There's 3 file formats, and then you can upload those file formats to your smartphone, your Garmin Edge, your Garmin Watch, a Wahoo Element, Brighton, any type of GPS. And then also, if you create a route, what you want to be able to do is either share it with your friends. So you need to make sure when you create the route, that you either make it public or make it available to friends. And your friends have to follow you, like Ride with GPS and those type of file creations. And then the biggest question I get, or most frequent question I get, is how do I install or download a route into my Garmin Edge? And I, again, have a link here to a video, but just go to YouTube and Google, how do I install a route? And also the same thing, if you have a Wahoo Element, that's even easier to do. But there's always YouTube videos to show you how to do that.
So Sheri, we did just have a question. If it's good for someone that doesn't have all the bells and whistles and a beginner level bike. Now you can download these to your phone, right? With the Ride with
Yes.
GPS app and other things.
Yes.
So that should be something, Debbie, that you can do. And in fact, I can tell you for our Gibbet, our Grand Illinois Bike Tour, we do use Ride with GPS, and then people, if they choose, they can upload it to their Garmin or their smartphone.
Yeah, so if you don't have the expensive Garmin computer, what you can do is upload it to your phone and use it that way. Certain of the applications will not give you the cues, like the beeps, or so the turn by turn, it'll show you, but it won't actually give you an audio cue. So it varies on the file type, and also where, if you've done a subscription base. So you'll have to play with it. So I would say just create a small route in your neighborhood and download it to your phone and play. That way you won't get lost, unless you're one of the people that said you get lost in a round room. Okay. Any other questions before we move on?
Nope, not right now, but I love your suggestion of doing a test route on something you already know.
So hopefully I've given you a lot of food for thought for creating your next route. Here is some contact information. If you have any questions, send me an email. Also, you can reach me through my blog or YouTube channel. And for the women on the call, feel free to join my women's group. Just search on Facebook, Trek Bicycle Store Highland Park Women's Group. I know it's long, but great place to go to find other people to ride with, or other women, I should say, to ride with. I have all sorts of articles that I share on nutrition, gravel riding, mountain biking, road riding, strength training. So there's always something new. And then hopefully once we can all get together again, there will be clinics and events and rides. So Gina, you wanted to talk a little bit about Ride Illinois' maps?
Yeah, if you want to stop sharing yours, I just wanted to briefly show our webpage where people would find it. So so I know that Sheri did mention both our website and the Bike Federation of Wisconsin. So I just want to say, if you go to our webpage, you'll see on the top, there's little things. Go to Maps, scroll down. This will actually show you where various mountain bike trailheads are and bike shops. But we have several things on here. The Bike to Metro Guides is mainly gives you routes to trains, bikes on Amtrak. But we have our own route guide, such as our Grand Illinois Trail Guide, our Route 66 Trail Guide. I don't know if it's going to load quickly enough for us. But then we also have a link of state and city bike maps. So some of these are ours, and some of these are just links to other people's maps, so it's easier to find. And here we go. So we have links to the IDOT ones. We have some that we did, like Aurora, Champaign-Urbana. But so it is a place that you can find longer routes, such as the Grand Illinois Trail, as well as just short ones. So I just wanted to make sure people knew how to find that on our website. I will stop sharing.
And then Peter from the Evanston Bike Club, that's awesome. During the pandemic, the Evanston Bike Club is sharing their entire library of local bike routes from 10 miles to 110 miles. So that's great. And the North Shore Century routes.
That is wonderful. And if you can go to their website, and if after this webinar you forget, we have links to all the bike clubs on our website, so you can find them that way as well. Thank you, Peter. So if you have questions, you can put it in the chat, or you can raise your hand and I can try to figure out how to unmute you. I will say, just a suggestion, traffic circles are tough to negotiate for newer riders and should be avoided. That is an excellent tip, Chuck. And Sheri did mention some of the Facebook groups around here, but of course I know, all throughout the state you can find them. And sometimes if you don't know, you can suggest just to your local Facebook group. When I was going to Copper Harbor, I think I posted first in the Payless Riders group because that's my local trail system. And they gave me suggestions of where to find the trail info, as well as mines, a mine we could go visit and places we could go climbing on rocks. So our cycling community is really wonderful. And if you don't know where to go, a lot of times your local one will help you as well.
So Julie, you have a question about a source to follow for volume of traffic on routes. So I think the heat maps in Strava are great because those cyclists are tending to avoid high traffic roads. Also, if you go to Google Maps and you look for a route on a bicycle, they do try and route you around heavy trafficked roads. The other thing that I've done when I've created new routes is I'll go into the satellite view and zoom in, and just, you can actually see how wide a shoulder is. And you can also try and find out what the speed limit is. You can even see it down to if there's like rumble strips on the shoulder to make sure that you can ride on the shoulder. And then again, you can actually go out on Facebook and ask people in the area, have you ridden on this road? Is it bad? Is it good? But the heat maps are good. And Charlie Smith is saying that Ride with GPS also has heat maps. So you've got several sources.
Google Maps will also sometimes even show you traffic conditions. So that could be also a fallback thing as well. Once you've done the other things, maybe on the type of day that you're going to go, if you see that it's already, if it's all backed up, then I would change your route. But yeah, the local Facebook groups is always wonderful.
And then also, if you're going to do a route in a local area, I always suggest, hop in your car. If you're not sure, get in your car and drive it. You'll get a good feeling if it's heavily trafficked or not. Oh, and then I'm reading Troy saying the same thing.
Yeah, Troy just gave that a tip.
Great minds think alike. Thanks, Troy.
So many familiar names on this attendee list. This is kind of fun. Oh, Jeff pointed out, and I know some of, I believe both Dave Simmons and Ed have done this before too, that they would take a ride out to somewhere or ride their bike and then hop on the metro to head back south. And on that page that I showed you guys, there is some metro guides and there's also an Amtrak thing. So it's not as updated as we would like, but it does give you some tips on that. Oh, Charlie, he's our wonder attendee. The state bike maps are coded for ADT. The problem is that the maps haven't been updated in a while. They're still available as PDF downloads by county from the website. And we do have a link to that on our website as well, which Rick already pointed out for us. Edward pointed out that the Google Street View is a good source for road conditions, which you pointed out. Oh, and a lot of the gravel roads listed on the IDOT maps Charlie's pointing out are sort of paved now. So yeah, that is the problem with when you print maps, that pretty much as soon as they're printed and distributed, there's usually something changed. So Sheri, did you do any new routes over the past year, or are you planning any new ones for this year that you can share with us and whet our appetites for some adventure?
Well, I did. I had like this small circle of cyclists that I rode with during the summer. And we were on a mission to see sunflowers. It was a great season for sunflowers. So I just created different routes to find different sunflower farms. And it was an adventure. And I was very excited that my friends went with me, and we found some great sunflower farms and had some incredible rides and saw some new scenery. And then I also created a century route for some friends. We worked up to the miles because a couple of them had not done a century before. And I did it so that there was a way, if people only wanted to do a metric century, they could end at a certain point and get home and do but ride the majority of the miles with us and do a metric century. And then those that wanted to continue on could finish the century.
And I'm going to say Cynthia Hoyle, our board vice president, pointed out that they created route maps for families, because she's also with the Champaign-Urbana Safe Routes to School, for families providing shorter, mostly off-road routes for biking with kids. And you can see them all on CU Bike Month. During the pandemic, lots of new riders want to cycle but don't know where bike infrastructure is located. Rick points out county highways in West Central State are good road routes. I think for the most part, once you get out of the greater Chicagoland area, it's going to probably, I'm generalizing, so you guys will have to let me know if I'm wrong. I'm guessing there's a lot of good road routes. Troy wants to know, and I believe Troy's in Springfield, if I'm remembering all my people correctly. He wants to know what you enjoy most, loop routes or out and back. And I'm going to just interject first. Really, and I like out and backs, because I usually ride first thing in the morning, and it is just less thinking. I go out one direction, then I come back.
Well, I guess if you're doing, it depends. If you're doing a road ride, I like loops. If you're doing a trail, it's sometimes nice to do an out and back where you only have a certain amount of time, or you only want a certain number of miles. So you go 15 miles out, 15 miles back, you're done.
See, Rob mentions this from IDOT can show you traffic counts in Illinois. So Rob, you actually posted that just to the panelists, and I think a lot of people are going to find that link interesting. So maybe post that again to all panelists and attendees. So it is a link from IDOT that can show you traffic counts on Illinois roads. You must zoom in and put cursor on a specific route. Molly, I believe she's down south. Our local bike group, mostly rural riding, created a dog map on Google so we can share information about troublesome dogs. I'd almost also want to know which are the cutest dogs and the ones that I should stop and pet. Oh, Jeff wants to know, what are the sunflower farms?
So there's one in Barrington. There was one out in Wisconsin, and there was one that we stopped at on the way out to Kenosha. And Ken, if you want to send me an email, I can hook you up with the routes.
In that, then Ken also said, in that sunflower ride theme, is there a way to create the best ride with old barns or historic bridges? Maybe cross-referencing other modes of transportation maps and integrating for cycling. Well, that sounds very interesting.
Yeah, there's another ride that I want to try and figure out is murals. There's so many cool murals, both in Wisconsin and in Illinois, in the Chicago area, that I would love to figure out a bike route to see all the different murals, because there are articles that list where you can find them. Even just Janesville, Wisconsin has a whole bunch of murals. And I would love to just do a ride around that area and take pictures with your bike against the mural.
Did you see Tom's, he's planning on riding from Minnesota to the Chicago area? Your most useful advice for planning. Well, I'm going to say first, I would check out our guides and also adventure cycling maps. And then Sheri, you may have some good tips for him too.
Yeah, I think all the resources that I talked about, like reaching out to some of the Facebook groups, and maybe some of the bike packing groups that probably might have done that type of trip.
Do you see Allen's alpaca farms are fun for all? McLean County has 4 and owners are bike friendly with us. Maybe that can be your next theme
I
as
found
well.
one in Janesville. We went after a mountain bike ride. We went to an alpaca farm. And
Bethany,
just a tip, alpaca socks are very warm and great for winter biking.
She talked about those very highly at the cold weather biking webinar. And actually, since you were talking about murals, we did also do a webinar in January that dealt with murals, particularly with bike lanes and stuff. Bethany says Rockford has some great murals too. Local groups did a mural sighting contest a while ago. That sounds like a lot of fun. And Lee said there's an add-on for the Garmin Edge when you have a Garmin Varia that gives you traffic counts and can show you exactly where cars passed you. That is very interesting.
So that's interesting because I do have the Varia radar, but I haven't thought about doing the counts.
Well, maybe that'll be one of your new, you could examine it and do a blog post on it and enlighten us all. Sorry, the IWD, that would be the International Women's Day, right? Ralph is our bike columnist extraordinaire for the Daily Herald. Said the page had an entry showing urban murals in De Pere, Wisconsin. I did not get to check out all the stuff from the International Women's Day Facebook page, but they had a lot of great stuff. And Sheri did a raffle and gave off some great prizes.
Well, great. Well, I hope everybody found this useful and can walk away figuring out a new route for the warmer weather.
And if you do come up with a question later, you can always reach out to us via email, Facebook, and like I said, we will post her presentation online in the next day or so, depending on how crazy tomorrow is. And of course, the YouTube video, we'll have this uploaded to both our YouTube channel as well as Sheri's YouTube channel. Kelly said very helpful. Rich said thank you. So thank you guys so very, very much. And if you enjoyed it, join us for our next one and make sure you let your friends know that they can still watch this. So I hope everyone has a wonderful evening. Ralph said you're always inspiring, by the way.
Thanks, Ralph.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. Have a nice evening.
Thanks, Rich.